before I talk about On This Day in British History, I just want to bring attention to a really good article which I read in the Daily Telegraph by the journalist Charles Moore, who's always got a very good way of saying things, who can take an idea that many people think but find the words to express them, which is such a great skill, which of course he has got in spades. And he was talking here: the coming year is the time for the BBC to make a date with impartial history. And he's talking here about the extent to which some of the programmes on the BBC can be impartial and can be perhaps looking at history from a very slanted angle, like learning British history or whatever from a negative point of view, which is all well and good, but at the end of the day it has to be properly balanced by the overall context of things. And he says, it is 50 years since I studied basic history at school, but even in that distant era I do not remember ever being told that the British Empire as a whole was marvellous, and I do recall several occasions on which I was taught that it had been bad. However, mostly what I remember, Anglo-centric certainly, but not cut off from world issues. I like this bit. Its power came not from its ideology, which was mostly vague, but from its chronological coherence. Chronological coherence. What a fantastic term, which means putting the dates and the times in order in a way that you can really remember and understand and explain to others as well. And he adds, the sequence of time is the framework of all history. What happens afterwards cannot affect what happened before, although it might well change our view of what happened before. So dates really matter. We learnt them often by heart, and that's what we do here at A Force for Good when we always have our On This Day in British History. It's because dates matter, and it's around dates that you can arrange the year, the British year, the Unionist timeline as we also have it. He says the first thing we learnt was a context of consecutive facts. It was only when we approached adulthood that we started to consider historical arguments more analytically. Unfortunately, this is untypical of the way history is conveyed in the 21st century. It is not so much that pupils learn bad narratives, it is more that they learn no overall narrative, and by narrative is meant story. Woke ideology seeks to fill the vacuum. And he says, if you don't know what happened when, you are like a geographer who cannot read a map. You have no sense of where you, your time, and your country stand in relation to your subject. You have no sense of where you, your time, and your country stand in relation to your subject. And that's why dates and the correct chronological coherence of them is so important to actually understand your very own life.